J.C. Newman Cigar Studio in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Smokin Nicole.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTobacco.com, and I am joined once again by my beautiful wife, Smokin Nicole. And we are here in the J.C. Newman Cigar Factory, established in 1895. J.C. Newman Cigar Co., America's oldest family-owned premium cigar maker. Head over to jcnewmancigar.com. Actually, no, it's jcnewman.com. My apologies. jcnewman.com to read more about their amazing cigars, including the American, the historic Diamond Crown Collection, El Baton, Brick House. Don't forget about Brick House, and many more at jcnewman.com. Well, Nicole, we are finally back. It's been a couple of weeks away. Well, not really a couple weeks. It was 1 week off, but it feels like it's been a while.
It feels like forever. Truly.
It does. It feels, it's only a week, but it feels like a lifetime. We had talked about trying to pre-record a show to have it available, and my apologies, we weren't able to do that just with our schedule, with our traveling and all the stuff we had to do. It was just a busy week. Sorry, I'm puffing on my cigar here. We went down to the Dominican Republic, and we saw some things down there. We saw some things. First of all, we saw, I think, the biggest and most important thing I want to mention, and we're not going to get too into it tonight. If you want to hear more about this trip, tune in Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Me, Nicole, and William Cooper on the Spare Notes show. That's right, Nicole will be on Spare Notes this week, and we're going to talk about this trip and the trip that Coop took, actually, the week before to Mexico for Casa 1910. But no, the biggest thing I just want to say is thank you to the Fuente family and the Fuente staff, Ciro, Jose Blanco, everyone who helped make it happen and welcomed us down there, because not only did we see the factory and all that cool stuff, but the big thing I really want to talk about is we saw the Cigar Family School and we met the kids. If you guys know, mostly guys follow us, we do the fundraiser every year. Yeah. This year we had a huge year, $51,000 we raised for that school. We got to meet them. We got to see it. We got to meet them. We met Emilio, one of the kids that Cynthia had told us about, who had cancer, who survived, who beat cancer. Just an amazing experience.
And we have a ton of videos, photos, everything to show. We just don't want to take away from our guest tonight, so we're going to do this on the Spare Note show. So tune in Saturday if you want to hear all about our trip.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely get into it, just not tonight. But I wanted to mention it. It's worth mentioning, and just want to again say a thank you to them. But so that's what we were up to. It was a long week. We weren't on the air, but we were still doing cigar stuff. We were still busy. We were still moving around, learning, smoking a lot of cigars, learning a lot of new information that we didn't have before. So we're more educated now, in a sense. But all of that's good stuff. Tonight we have an interesting show for you. Tonight we have a brand known as El Septimo. You may or may not have seen their cigars, heard about them. If you go to the trade show, you may have seen their booth there, real big, beautiful booth.
You couldn't miss it.
One
of the biggest booths with the most tech.
Absolutely. Many of you probably have heard this brand. Maybe you've tried it, maybe you haven't. If you had any questions on this brand, who they are, what they offer, tonight is the night to sit along, light up a cigar, and watch us. Sorry, I just dropped ash all over the table, and I feel like a goof now. And ask you questions. We will answer them for you. But without further ado, we're going to bring on Zaya from El Septimo, who is our guest this week. Zaya, welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. We're really excited to have you. El Septimo is a brand that, from what I understand, has been around in other countries for quite some time now. But the U.S. market, you guys are fairly new to the U.S. market. We saw you guys make your first appearance at PCA last year in 2021. You guys were here again in 2022. Sorry. Had a really amazing booth. You had some really cool stuff at the booth. I'm sure we'll talk about the lighters. The $5 million lighters were on display. You guys launched your Emperor collection. Really, really cool, fascinating, interesting new stuff that we saw from El Septimo. And now, after the show, you guys announced you're going to be opening 30 lounges across the U.S., El Septimo lounges. So you guys have a lot going on, and there's definitely a lot to talk about tonight. So I think what I'll start off with is just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got involved with El Septimo, and we'll kind of branch off from there.
Great. Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you guys today. My name is Zaya Younan. I'm the CEO of El Septimo. El Septimo was actually founded 26 years ago. It was a company that was founded in Geneva. They specialized back then and to this day making ultra premium cigars. And they were using a very special aged tobacco. So they had a limited quantity of these old aged tobacco. So they were producing a limited number of cigars, and they were basically just satisfying the European and Middle Eastern market for a long period of time. Until I came across them about 5 years ago. I smoked a cigar in Geneva, Switzerland, and I couldn't get the cigar out of my mind. It was such an unbelievable cigar. So I liked it so much. I bought the company 2 years ago, and a year and a half ago, we brought it to United States. And today in United States, we ship close to 1 million cigars a month to United States. And we are the fastest growing brand in the country and the rest of the world.
Yeah, you guys almost seemed like came out of nowhere last year. We were at the trade show and we were like, oh, who are these guys? You had this really big, colorful display at the trade show, and everyone was over there. As we first met you, we did an interview with you and whatnot, and I think it was when you guys were debuting the Sacred Arts collection, which came out last year, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Sacred Art came last year. It was a collection of 7 different cigars. And this year in PCA, we introduced Emperor Collection, which is a collection of 6 different cigars.
And I'm smoking one of them tonight. I'm smoking the Alexander right here. And Nicole,
Yeah.
what are you smoking over there?
I'm smoking the Exception Esmeralda.
Ah,
I see. Well, the Alexandra that you're smoking, it is our first Connecticut wrapper cigar we made. It is a mild cigar, full of flavor. And Nicole's smoking Esmeralda, which is a full body, stronger cigar. I'm surprised she's smoking a stronger cigar than you. Good for you, Nicole.
she showed me up tonight.
Yeah. You're smoking a Cadillac, and she's smoking a Ferrari tonight. So
Yeah. Well, happy wife, happy life. She,
Exactly.
I let her smoke the nicer stuff.
Yeah.
But no, she definitely she can hold her own. She could smoke the stronger cigars and keep up too. She's not just because she's a woman, that doesn't mean that she rides it on the mild side. She can smoke some pretty strong stuff. So I give her a lot of props for that. But no, I mean the cigars are great. They're fantastic. This is definitely a smooth cigar. A lot of flavor right off the bat. Really well balanced. I really enjoy this cigar. What do you think of that cigar?
It's very smooth for being full-bodied. I love it. It has like warm nutmeg almost flavor to it is what I'm picking up, but it's good so far.
Nicole, each one of these cigars we make, they have, depending on the different blend, we have over 44 different cigars and 44 different blend of cigar. Each cigar has a different blend than the other one.
Oh, wow.
Not 2 cigars have the same blend. And each cigar comes from 3 transition to 5 transition. So the 2 cigars you're smoking have 3 transition. The first transition is a mild, tasty, creamy, and then it's going to take you to a stronger transition. And toward the end, is going to take you to a medium transition out of it. So these cigars you're smoking, they all have 3 fillers. The cigar that Matt is smoking, it comes from 4 different countries. The cigar that you're smoking comes from 5 different countries. Tobacco comes from 5 different countries. And that's why they're so delicious and tasty, because it's a combination of different region, different countries, cigar blended together, fermented for a long period of time to have that balanced taste, because the number one requirement in cigar has to be a balance. If it's not balanced, obviously people won't enjoy smoking it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had some of the other cigars as well. I want to say it's from the Diamond Collection, and those cigars are pretty good as well. Those I smoked last year when I first got introduced to the brand. and now this is my first Emperor. This is a great cigar. I haven't had that cigar myself, but I look forward to trying that too.
By the way, we don't call it Diamond Collection anymore. We
Oh,
call
okay.
it Lexus Collection. But yes, they are the original line cigars that cigar tobacco comes from 5 different regions in the world, and these tobaccos are fermented from 5 to 15 years, aged and fermented and aged because they're two different processes. And the oil in the tobacco is evaporated very slowly because we take our time. We don't try to accelerate the process, so the flavor gets locked in, and you enjoy it when you're smoking it.
Ah, very interesting. Yeah, you guys, I know you've taken some different approaches to the way that you grow your tobacco, age it, ferment it. I also know you're involved in the wine industry as well.
We are. I've been involved in farming for 35 years, from making vegetables when I was working for Satlock. We were developing the precision farming technology equipment to make them farming easier, more efficient, more effective. And then we've been making wine for the past 10 years in Europe, cognac for the past 4 years in Europe, and now making cigar for the past 3 years. So we have a big plantation over 1,000 acres. And however, we only use 7% of our own tobacco because only 7% of our own tobacco qualifies to be used in El Septimo cigar. The 97% of the tobacco, 93% of the tobacco, we buy it from outside, from Nicaragua, from Ecuador, from Dominican Republic, from Peru, from Ecuador, from different countries around the world, in order to be able to get the blend that we require to get. So we use a lot of scientific approach in making a cigar that is very unique and proprietary to the way we make cigars. And that's what makes it special.
I remember at the trade show, I want to say last year, during our interview, we talked about some of the stuff you guys do with your tobacco, and you mentioned something about pH, and the pH in the soil and whatnot, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you remember that conversation we had. I think we were also talking about maybe in the wine with the grapes and the pH of the soil, something like that. I was going to ask you.
Yes, most of our tobacco comes from the region that they have a volcanic soil, right?
Okay.
Volcanic soil. And the reason we like that type of soil for all kinds of farming, either from grapes or tobacco, is because they have a lot of minerals in them, right? They have magnesium in there. They have iron in there, phosphorus in there. They have potassium in there. They have calcium in there, right? So the soil is very rich. That's why, for example, the cigar that Nicole smokes, the ash is darker, right? It's dark gray. And the reason it's dark gray is minerals doesn't burn and it leaves. However, we use this mineral tobacco because they're full of taste and full of transition and experience that we enjoy. So obviously, not only the pH, but the moisture, the taste, the minerals are in the tobacco because the tobacco is grown in the mountainous region in the soil that is all volcanic.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to growing tobacco, nutrients in the soil, that's definitely going to be the more nutrients you have, the better the flavor and all the other things that go into the tobacco that gives it, its strength, its body, the flavor, and especially that's why a lot of the stuff from Nicaragua we see in Esteli and Jalapa, like you see a lot of these very rich, mineral-rich tobaccos that are coming out of some of those factories down there. Very important stuff. It's something that, in the old days, you had, mostly Cuban cigars, and the Dominican cigars are starting to kind of grow, and that really wasn't a thing. And now we've gone to South and Central America, and all these other new tobaccos now that are seeing, I don't want to say new, but tobaccos that are used more frequently today in the modern age, have really changed the landscape of the cigar industry in terms of the tobaccos that are out there in the market. And you guys are definitely no exception to that. You guys are using all sorts of different tobaccos, which offer just such a great variety. So many different blends you can do, so many different flavors and options that you can offer within the collection, which is great. Let's talk about the Emperor collection being the newest collection. There were how many different lines in the Emperor collection? I know that each one is named after historical, emperor, leader or so on and so forth. How many different cigars are there in that collection?
Yeah, there are 6 different cigars in that collection, and of the 6, 2 are Maduro wrapper and 4 are Connecticut. Those are the first Connecticut we ever made over the last 20 some years we've been in business, because US market, there's a big demand for Connecticut cigars, Connecticut wrapper cigars. So so we realized that we have to make cigar that we can satisfy that side of the market. So you have Napoleon that has both Connecticut and Maduro wrapper. You have Emperor Yao that has both Connecticut and Maduro wrapper. And you also have Augustus, exactly. You have Augustus and you have Alexandra that are Connecticut wrapper. And different sizes, different shape. They come anywhere from 1 binder to 2 binder. They come anywhere from 3 different filler to 4 different fillers in each one of the cigars. So they're very, the tobacco's age from 5 to 7 years. And after we rolled them, we kept them for 3 years. We aged them in 3 years in the rainforest of Costa Rica, in a natural environment, open to environment. We aged them carefully, and then we brought them to United States. And they are my favorite cigars. I love them. I love smoking them. And I usually smoke many of them a day. I usually smoke 8 to 9 cigars a day, 12 to 14 on the weekends. And now half of the cigar I smoke are Emperor collection.
Yeah, I mean, so far on my first, I'm almost at the second, third. Oh, not quite, but I got about an inch of ash here. This cigar is great. It's very well balanced. Has a nice construction. Has a perfect draw to it. Nice and light. Nice and smooth. Not to the point where it's too smooth and it's going to overheat. It's just right. So this cigar is performing extremely well. And I would say probably out of all of the cigars, and I haven't had all of them, but out of the ones I have had, and I've had a fair amount, this one's probably my favorite cigar that you guys make so far. I mean, this is incredible.
One of we are introducing another line. It's called Emperor Sargon, which we also make a Connecticut in that. And that Connecticut cigar, I think I've been smoking for 35 years. I think is the best cigar I ever smoked in my lifetime, and I've been smoking for 30 some years. And you should try that. You will love it. And I'm smoking, for example, Yao now, Emperor Yao, which is Connecticut. It's 64 gauge and very smooth. This goes to 4 transition. It's got 4 different fillers in it. And if you look at the construction, the scientific construction of tobacco, no gap, hand rolled. And one of the reasons you see no gap and tobacco is so well stacked next to each other is because after you roll it, you age it further, the cigar actually becomes homogeneous. It blends together, it becomes one, and it gives you unbelievable taste and experience. So I'm gonna light my 7 cigars for today. I can't wait usually to light one, and I smoke it. Make sure when you light a cigar, you never draw on a cigar when you light it, because you get all the black smoke inside of the cigar, you ruin the taste of the cigar. So you have to take your time, slowly roast the outside of it, occasionally blow on it, and then voila, is ready to be smoked.
Wow, look at that. It's always nice. It's always nice to show some new techniques and stuff like that too. I bet you there's a lot of people watching the show who didn't know that, who will use that now, which is great. That's why we're here, always trying to show new things to people, right? One of the things about your cigars that I've noticed across all of your collections, whether it's the Secret Arts or the Emperor or the Lexus collection, you guys tend to use a lot of larger formats, specifically in larger ring gauges. Is there any reason for that? Or are you going for the larger format market? I was just found it very interesting, very intrigued.
Matt, it's a good question, and there's a scientific answer to it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you see a larger, bigger gauge cigar, in theory, the way it's supposed to be, the cigar is supposed to be tastier because when you use bigger gauge, we put more fillers in it, more different fillers in it. Instead of 2, we put 4, 5 different fillers from different countries. So there is more taste, there is more identity in the cigar. So when we make a cigar, we don't decide to make a cigar 60 gauge or 58 gauge or 64 gauge. We come up with the profile of what we want the smoker to experience. And after we come up with that profile, we put the tobacco together. And the very first thing we do a smell test. Before we smoke the cigar, we do a smell test. Once we put this tobacco together, only then we know what the gauges of it are. However, having said that, El Septimo produces cigars anywhere from 32 gauge all the way to 70 gauge. So
It's big
we
size.
have, but you're right, majority of our cigar are bigger gauge because they have more fillers, so they have more taste, more flavors, and that's what people love so much about El Septimo cigar. And another thing, Matt, is that when I bought this company 2 years ago, the cheapest El Septimo cigar was $60 a stick, and the most expensive one was $200 a stick. So today we produce cigar as low as $10 per retail. For example, the Alexandra you're smoking today is $10 retail. From $10 retail all the way up to $80 a retail per stick. So we have every size, every gauge, every flavor, every wrapper, and the entire spectrum of the price. The $10 cigar you're smoking right now, Alexandra, is the lowest price ultra premium cigar in the market today.
You know, for $10, this is a hell of a cigar.
$10 retail, that's correct.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty good for $10. I mean, I have to say, very very reasonable price. You know, that's right in there in the, I would say, the average for a regular premium cigar. You know, but for something ultra premium, I mean, that's a very good price point for that cigar.
Now be careful something, a lot of people call their cigar premium, right? There are many specifications that qualifies a cigar as a premium or not. One of the specification is long fillers, means you have to use the entire leaf without cutting it, or without cutting the pieces and mixing it into your cigar. The cigar you smoke, which is made by El Septimo, Rolls Royce of the industry, is $10, and its long filler is a full leaf inside of that. And I don't think there is any cigar that is ultra premium that retails for $10 on the market today.
That uses all long filler?
That uses a long filler and also is aged tobacco, right? Is aged tobacco past 5 years.
Past 5 years. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, there's a few companies that come to mind that I would think use it, but maybe I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, yeah, I mean, for ultra premium, I mean, who else is making ultra premium cigars right now? You have Atabey, Byron, Davidoff's making cigars like that. Mirafel's making cigars that I would say are in that echelon. Some of the stuff that Arturo Fuente makes is up there from their more Forbidden X collection. Yeah, I mean, there's some other cigars I would say that are in that region, but for as low as 10, I mean, yeah, that's true. For the lower price point, it's tough to beat that. I mean, a lot of the times you see that aged tobacco, and right away you're starting in the high 20 range and going up to there for the price point in that range. So that's just an interesting point, and that's what makes this cigar so interesting in itself, is you're getting something that is aged for so long of that caliber for the price point. And it's great because you can make yourself available to so many different smokers. You know, there's a lot of people who can't afford to smoke a $20, $30, $40 cigar. They can afford 10, and they can spend $10 and get something that's, you know,
exactly
pretty
now,
robust.
let me ask you a question, Matt. Do you know why aged tobacco is better?
Well, when it comes to aged tobacco, I would assume, you know, the longer you age it, and of course ferment it, the cleaner, the purer the tobacco gets. More of the impurities leave the leaves, and which obviously heavily affects not only the taste and the flavors and all that, but, you know, the way it burns, you know, the textures and all that. So the longer you age it, the more rounded out and polished and perfect the leaves can be for when they're actually combusted in a
Yeah,
cigar.
that's partially true, but the scientific behind that and behind something else that you didn't mention is that from the time you pick a leaf out of the Nicotina plant to the earliest time that you can make a smokable cigar is 3 years, similar to wine, right? If you age the tobacco, ferment the tobacco, right? If you ferment the tobacco over a long period of time, you put it in an environment that humidity is a lot, the sun is not very strong. So the oil inside of the leaves does not condense fast, they condense slowly. So the bad oil gets evaporated over time, the good oil stay in the leaf, and that's where the taste comes from, a good oil inside of the leaf.
Sure. I mean, the oils is obviously a huge part of that too. People talk about after they purchase the cigars, and some people age cigars on their own when they buy cigars, so they just store cigars for a long period of time. They don't smoke them as fast or whatever, so they tend to sit in their humidor. A lot of people will talk about those cigars coming out when they finally smoke them, and the oils are being there, or maybe if they waited too long, the oils will have evaporated and left, and the cigar is more dry. That's why you don't want to let your cigars sit, forever, so to speak. Also,
Actually, Matt, I was in France, and I was in the house of this guy who's the biggest collector of Cuban cigar in the world, and he took me to a cellar. His name is Philippe Boyer, and he took me to a cellar, and I had an experience smoking 200 years old Cuban cigar,
really, that's interesting.
and it was a cigar from 1879, and the cigar was excellent, excellent. And for over so many years, it was stored in this castle underground inside of the wine cellar.
Really?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
correct. Yeah.
that's interesting.
So if the cigar is stored properly, you could store it for a very long period of time. Same as a wine, right? Same as a wine. And you can store it for a long period of time and it still is smokable and tastes very well.
We have a question from the audience for you. This one comes from our friend Joey. Shout out Joey Bianco. It's our buddy Joey. Do you prefer cello or non-cello aging?
Mm. That's a very good question, Joey. First of all, when you age it, you have to expose the tobacco into a natural environment, right? It's difficult to age the tobacco when it's in cellophane, it's closed, no air gets in, no air gets out, temperature is densed out, and the moisture gets trapped in, and you can't monitor the moisture, right? That's why sometimes when you buy a cigar, you see the cellophane is all brown, right? Over a short period of time, it becomes a barn. So all of our cigars are aged, obviously in open natural environment without any cellophane on them, as exposed. Matter of fact, prior to COVID, we never put our cigar in cellophane, not even in the boxes. It was after the COVID that we start putting our cigars in cellophane. But all of our cigars are aged in a rainforest of Costa Rica, 9,000 feet above the sea level, right? All in the open environment, exposed to natural humidity and natural sunlight.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I know. Definitely, you brought up the golden, the dark cellophanes that a lot of people tend to see on cigars that have been sitting around aging for a while. Another question we had from the audience that I wanted to bring up is from John. And how do you feel about your lounges? So on the lounges that you guys are opening, you announced earlier this year that you were going to open 30 lounges. I want to say over the next 3 years in the United States.
That's correct.
And
That's correct. In the next month, we're gonna open 3 more lounges in 1 month. One would be in Sarasota, Florida. It will open at the end of December. One in Hollywood. It would be a first cigar lounge in Hollywood, city of Hollywood in Los Angeles, and one would be in Corona, right outside of the Los Angeles. So these 3 lounges will be open in the next month to 45 days. So we're really excited about it. And our lounges are different. If you look at behind me, that's our cellar that actually goes long. It goes long way down. The cellar is about 4,000 square feet, and that cellar holds about 2 million sticks of cigars.
Wow.
And most of the cigars in there are not in cellophane. They're all open, and they are being not only temperature control, not only humidity control, but also ionizer. And the other thing is this: inside of this, we have cedar from 3 different countries: Spain, Brazil, and Colombia. And we infuse different odor and different spices sometimes on these cigars by exposing them in there for a long period of time.
Really? Interesting. That's something different. Um, the other part of that other question I was going to ask you was, um, on those 30 lounges, are these going to be your lounges, or are these going to be lounges that are also, maybe some of these are going to be lounges that are like a sponsored lounge of another retailer, if you kind of follow?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
Usually, for example, the lounge in Hollywood would be our lounge. The lounge in Corona would be sponsored by somebody else, and the lounge in Sarasota, which is a brand new lounge and brand new building, is by somebody else. So 30% of these 30 lounges would be ours, about 30%, and then the rest of them would be other people lounges who are converting their name from Davidoff or their own name to El Septimo Geneva.
Nice. Very interesting. Yeah, I was curious about that myself too, but that obviously I thought when I first read it, I was like, wow, 30. That's a lot of lounges, but having it in with other people's lounges too, I mean that makes a lot of sense. We're gonna hit our news really quickly. We'll give you a chance to have a break for a second. Our news is once again brought to you by Micallef Cigars. If you head over to micallefcigars.com today, you can sign up to become an official ambassador, get your ambassador number, coin, and while you're at it, head over to Facebook and join the Micallef Ambassador Facebook group, where you can hang out and smoke with all of your fellow Micallef smokers. Once again, visit micallefcigars.com. This week, a lot of releases were announced this week, and even last week too, while we were away. But in another release of the Zodiac cigars, Davidoff has one, Drew Estate does them. Macanudo Inspirado, Year of the Rabbit, coming soon to the global market. Scandinavian Tobacco Group will release a special blend of Macanudo Inspirado to commemorate the Chinese New Year, which begins on January 22nd, 2023, called Macanudo Inspirado Year of the Rabbit. The limited edition release will be sold exclusively in select markets in Europe and Asia. The blend features a silky Connecticut shade wrapper grown in the U.S., a Mexican binder, and hand-selected tobaccos from the Dominican Republic and Mexico. The result is a rich smoke with a pleasant aroma that pairs beautifully with an array of beverages and cuisines. Macanudo Inspirado Year of the Rabbit Toro measures 152 by 20 millimeter, equivalent to 6 by 50 in the U.S., while pricing out will vary according to the country in which the cigar is sold. They estimate to retail price be $20 US. So this is very interesting. Nicole has this up on the screen. I believe they can see that, right?
Yep.
You can see the pictures of the bands, the box, the packaging. Very nice stuff. Again, kind of on similar theme with some of the other manufacturers that have put these out. These are getting more popular, I've noticed, over the last 5 years. These, the Chinese New Year, the Zodiac releases. Davidoff's been doing it for quite some time.
Plasencia come out with one too?
You're right. I think Plasencia did do one as well. And I don't even know. Was that their first one that they did? They did a Year of the Tiger.
Yeah.
They did. They did a Year of the Tiger. Drew Estate had the Year of the Rat. Then they did the Year of the Ox, the Year of the Tiger. So they've done it as well. I assume they're going to do a Year of the Rabbit in their Unico series line. Now we see this one. So this is definitely a theme that we're seeing more and more of, and it's interesting. I mean, it's fun. They're collectible. It's another, for lack of a better term, excuse to do a limited cigar. By doing it around this theme. It makes sense, but they're definitely picking up in popularity. Zaya, interesting question. I don't know if you guys have thought about maybe doing anything along that line too, like with the Year of the Tiger, the Year of the Rat, and any of your cigars maybe in the future.
Well, I don't know if you want to call our cigar rat or anything, but El Septimo is a luxury living brand. It's not just cigars. El Septimo is now over $100 million in revenue globally. We produce a lot of things, not just a cigar. So we like to theme our cigar after historical, important things that exist in our life, right? Like Emperor Collection, after famous leaders that shaped our world today. Sacred Art Collection, after religious 7 days to create the heaven and earth by God, and all the famous artists who captured that 7 days in their painting. So we usually like to get more historic and use historical reference to name our cigar and relate it to that, more like event or series or name after animal.
Absolutely. One of the things that we wanted to bring up tonight on the show, I just remembered. I don't want to forget. You had sent me something interesting. It was a study that you guys had done on nicotine, and I know that we wanted to talk about this tonight. It was interesting. I have it here in front of me. Nicole, I know you read it too, so feel free to chime in here on this one. But is natural nicotine really bad for you? Which I thought was very interesting, and this is definitely a topic. When you talk about cigars, people talk about the FDA, at least in the U.S., you talk about the FDA and regulations and all of that nonsense that, we obviously have to listen to and fight with and, protect our love of cigars from being taken over by the government. But it's interesting. You guys did this study on natural nicotine, and I'll let you kind of give me the summary of that whole thing that we can share with the audience tonight.
Sure. El Septimo purchased a major skincare company in Germany called Niovi for about $1 billion. Transaction just completed recently. And a group of scientists, German scientists, because these all work for me. We have over 2,800 scientists in Germany. Did this study for me for my birthday. And,
oh, wow.
They presented it to me. And they said, Mr. Younan, you might not know, but we did something really interesting. We hope you like it. And I read that while I was in my middle of the birthday party, and I was thinking about it all night. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about it. What's inside of the cigar is a natural nicotine. There is no additive. There's no preservatives. It's just a natural nicotine. God created a plant, Nicotina plant. We take the leaf, we ferment them, we age them, we roll them, and you enjoy them. It's like a fruit, right? And a lot of people or audience might not know, natural nicotine is not only in the cigar, is in the tomato you eat every day, eggplant, potato, the French fries you eat.
Very true.
The green pepper, right? They all are from the same family as tobacco plant called nightshade family. And they all have nicotine in them. So if you take a blood from an 8-year-old kid that never smoked, his parents never smoked, you will find enough nicotine, traceable nicotine, that essentially is equivalent to a person that smoked 3 cigars a week. Because when you eat salad, when you eat pizza, when you eat pasta, when you eat French fries, when you eat eggplant, they all have same identical nicotine that is inside of the cigars, inside of the tobacco. So nicotine, natural nicotine, has been part of our diet for millions of years. And if you read the study, it shows actually benefit of a natural nicotine, which is a part of our nutrition diet every day, essentially, right? Smoking cigar, it shows, and is referenced in that report by studies done by Cambridge, Yale, Columbia, Harvard, that delay the effect of Alzheimer, dementia, reduce the possibility of the strokes, reduce the stress level significantly, because natural nicotine dilates your artery, so there is more blood flow and oxygen throughout all part of your body and organs.
And nicotine's a stimulant too, so you'll get the cognitive awareness and stuff like that too, that's similar to caffeine.
Well, because nicotine and coffee are cousins. They're all nightshade. So inside of if you take a bean of nicotine and genetically taste it, you find nicotine in it. And if you take a nicotina seed, you genetically taste it, you're gonna find caffeine in it. So they're all same family.
Ah, very interesting. I didn't know that part. That's very interesting. Now, this is a report that you guys have published on your website, I believe. Correct? Is this public information?
Yeah, of course. It's a public information. We pass it to people. every claim inside of that report is reference to a scientific research report done by some professor someplace in the world. So it's all fact driven. I mean, if you pull up your iPhone, you Google, does red tomato have nicotine in it? And you find out that Google tell you, yeah, it's got plenty of nicotine in it.
Yeah, very true. I mean, and that's something I've known that. I'm pretty sure Nicole's known that. But I feel like you're right though. There's a lot of people who may not realize that, and that is true, especially with the nightshades. I remember someone telling me one time, if there's more nicotine in eggplant. If you have an eggplant, parmesan or an Italian dish with eggplant in it, with the tomato sauce and all that, like, there's more nicotine in that than in one of your cigars. So,
Actually, is one serving of that kind of food that has eggplant in it, tomato sauce in it. There is equivalent nicotine in it than 2 cigars because
oh wow,
the food that you eat it, you swallow it. When you smoke a cigar, majority of the cigar you blow it out, so you don't basically inhale it. It doesn't go to your blood systems.
true. Yeah, it's only within the mouth, and if you retrohale in the nasal cavity.
And sometimes you retrohale, not a lot. Sometimes you do it on purpose. Sometimes you do it by accident, right? But it's not a lot. But when you're sitting, you're eating that food that you just talked about. You eat it, you swallow it, it goes into your bloodstream systems. And when you eat that kind of food, as you said, the eggplant has nicotine in it. The pasta sauce, tomato has nicotine in it, right? So all of that is absorbed by your body. And I'm 60 years old, and I've been smoking cigar for 35 years, and I smoke sometimes average of 8 to 14 a day, and I don't take any medication, and my doctor liked me to see him a couple times a year. I see him once every 3 years, so so that should tell you something about how bad cigar is for you to smoke, and I smoke a lot of them.
We smoke a lot too. I mean, I think I smoke a little bit more than you do.
More than me.
But yeah, I could kind of identify with that. We smoke a lot of cigars over here too. So I know where you're coming from on that for sure.
I mean, I'm sure you saw a documentary about Michael Jordan, Last Dance. It was
Oh
on
yes,
TV,
oh yes, I
not
did.
long ago.
Yeah,
And if you remember that show, this is a guy who smoked 4 or 5 cigars a day. He would smoke a cigar before his practice. He would smoke a cigar before his game, after a game, after a practice. And he was one of the best athletes ever walked on the face of the earth, right?
sure.
And this guy smokes, every time you have a picture of this guy, he's smoking a cigar, right?
Oh yeah,
So the question again is really how bad it's for you. The other thing, natural nicotine reduces the inflammation in the body.
interesting.
Reduce the inflammation in the body. Yesterday, I was having, which I'm gonna put it on my Instagram. I was having a cigar smoke with David Edwards, who's an offensive lineman for Rams that won the Super Bowl last year.
Yes,
He said he's been smoking cigar, because he's an offensive lineman. He takes all the beating. Big guys taking a beating. So he says inflammation is a major thing in the body. They have to sit in an ice pad after every practice, every game. He said he's been eliminating that because he smokes more cigar. He noticed that cigar reduces body inflammation. Again, the reason for that is because nicotine, if you Google it, nicotine dilates your artery. When your artery are dilated, more oxygen and blood flows, right? And that eliminates the stress. Usually, stress is caused by inflammation, body inflammation.
Now, what's interesting about this, while we're on this topic, a lot of times when people, maybe they smoke too fast, they smoke too much, they absorb a lot of nicotine. Maybe they smoke, 3 or 4 cigars back to back, really quickly, and then they start to feel lightheaded. They start to feel maybe they get a headache. Maybe they feel kind of sick. What causes that when you talk about the nicotine in the body and the benefits? What causes some of those negative things that people say that they feel?
Yeah, Matt, unbelievable question. Good for you, because I go around the world, talk about cigars and nicotine, because I'm an engineer by degree. I'm a scientist. I invented a lot of product in my previous lifetime, and seldom I get people ask me those good questions you just asked me. Now, what caused that? And there are 2 major causes to that you get lightheaded, you start sweating, you start getting nauseous, right? You
True.
start feeling bad. One of the reasons is body temperature. an average human body temperature is 97.5. When you smoke cigar too fast or back to back, your body temperature could go up as much as 3 degrees. So you go from 97.5 to 100.5. At 101, you have a fever. This
Yes.
is why it's important to smoke slower. Or if you really like to smoke fast, like I do, I usually have a glass of cold water with me. And as I smoke, every so often, I drink a cold ice water to help bring my temperature down. The second reason is when the tobacco that used in the cigar is full of pesticides and chemical, that also causes a nauseousness. Remember, from the time a nicotina seed is planted to the time the nicotina plant is 6 feet, 6.5 feet, that we pick the leaf after 8-9 months, most farmers use 200, in average, 200 application of pesticides on it. They spray pesticides to protect the leaf from diseases. That pesticide stays on the leaf. And when you smoke it, those chemicals could basically be harmful for you. And those chemicals also make you nauseous, oozy, and make you sweat.
Interesting. It's funny you mentioned the pesticide because we have a lot of manufacturers on the show, particularly ones who grow their own tobacco and whatnot, always talking about how they don't have pesticides that they use in the field, and their claim is always our product is always so natural because we don't use that kind of stuff. So
well, that's not true. That's not true. And let me speak it online. I'm sure George Padron, Carlito Fonte, J.C. Newman, Rocky Patel, they're all, listen to me, they're all my good friends. That is not true at all. Literally, every plant in the world uses pesticides except few. And the reason for it is they don't use pesticides, they use 30 to 35% of the crop. And when they use 30 to 35% of the crop, right, then they're not making any profit, right? Do you know sometimes you get the bad smell of cigar on your clothes and you go someplace and people say, oh my God, did you smoke a cigar? That smell is not from the smoke of the pure cigar itself, because pure cigar smoke is non-adhesive. What is adhesive is the pesticides, is the smell of the pesticides. Essentially, cow shit that we chemically transform it to a liquid to spray it on the plant so the flies don't come because the smell irritates them, they walk away. That's the scientific fact. So it's not from me, a tobacco maker, a cigar maker, but scientific fact. Don't turn off the lights. Don't.
Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting stuff. Like I said before, a lot of times, we have people come on and they make those claims of, oh, we don't use this on our leaves.
That's not true. That's not true. And the reason I'm being outspoken about it, because it's a pure ignorance. How could anybody get on this show say that? Is a pure ignorance and a pure incorrect information. I've been to every plant in the world, from Cuba to all over to Mexico, right? It is not true at all. They use it, and that's why you smell it so much on your body. Let me give you an example. On the cigar you guys smoke, that you are basically de-ashing it in the ashtray, I want you to pick up that ashtray, because nothing is in it except El Septimo. Am I right?
Yeah, these ashtrays were empty, yeah.
Okay. Smell the ashtray. Tell me if it smells bad.
It's a light smell, but it's not pungent.
Now, next time, take some of our competitor cigars, smoke it, smell that ashtray. That tells you which cigar company uses a pesticide and which one doesn't. You could test this at home. It's very easy. Just smell your ashtray.
Interesting. Well, I've never heard that. I've never heard that before, and I've never heard that analogy with the ash and the smell. So it's something that I'll.
But it makes sense, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. To some degree, obviously. I mean, when you have other things in there that burn, and even like we were talking about with the nutrients before.
But Matt, hold on a minute. Where else is in the tobacco? We pick the tobacco from Nicotine plant. We don't wash it. We don't spray it with anything. We basically ferment it. We ferment it. We roll it. We age it. There's nothing added to it. So where does that bad smells come from? That's the bad smell of pesticides, a chemical. Right away, I own a chemical company, so I happen to know a lot about this, right? I own a big chemical company, so I know a lot about this, right?
Oh, okay.
We don't use it. We lose 30 to 35% of the crop. We don't care. And because it's an important thing for me. My children smoke this cigar. My wife smokes this cigars. And I'm very careful what they put in their mouth and what they consume.
Now, is there any, so based on that information, right, and in your experience, there's no amount or style or level of fermentation and aging that, you know, for someone who, let's say they use a pesticide and stuff like that they spray on their leaves, there's no amount of fermentation and aging on the tobacco that could remove that.
No. It's a chemical. You know, it's like an apple, right? You go to the super, you go to the store, right? You have an apple, right? You see the apple is
Sure.
shiny, right?
Yes.
You know why it's shiny? The apple cannot be shiny like that. Apple is matte. And again, I own a big apple farm, so I know these things. So the reason apple is shiny because they use a wax on it. They wax them. And that wax, you can wipe it by hand, doesn't come up. Matter of fact, you can use a regular soap, doesn't come up. Literally, you have to use a special soap to wash that apple, to take the wax out before you bite into it and you start eating it.
Interesting. I feel like I've heard about that before, but
There's been like TikToks and stuff where they put boiling water. Boiling is the only thing that makes it come off the apple.
oh, really?
Yeah,
I never saw that.
That's a good point, Nicole. But the
Yeah.
problem with boiling, you change the taste of the apple.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
It cook-
You cook the
yeah.
apple, you change
It
the taste
cooks.
of apple. Yeah. By the way, I want your audience to know, we El Septimo, we are Rolls Royce of the industry. A lot of ticket. That study that I gave you, right? Cigar
Sure.
industry is 500 years old. Has anybody ever done a study like that? Anybody? No. We were the first to do it, right? So we look at scientific way of understanding our product and how to make the best product in the world, rather than pick up the reef, roll them, and call them you aging them way they don't, and just sell them into the market, right? And I challenge any cigar manufacturer, any CEO, to get online with me, debate the subject one-on-one. One-on-one. And the reason I'm passionate about it, because your audience, my children smoke cigar. And I want to make sure they can differentiate this product so they pick a product that is good for them rather than light any cigar and start smoking it. Again, to all of your readers, next time when you smoke a cigar, you turn off your cigar, smell your ashtray. If your ashtray smells bad, that's the cigar you should never try. If your ashtray smells none or nothing significant, that's the cigar you should smoke.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out as you know, we go forward, smoke more stuff, and see what smells and what doesn't.
Absolutely, you should.
That's very interesting. I'm definitely going to look into that for myself. But yeah, no, this study is a good one. It's an interesting one. Obviously, something like that would be, you know, positive in terms of, you know, we talk a lot about things that the industry faces, right? You know, with the legislation and the FDA and all the things that they try to say are bad, the cigars are bad, and this is why they want to regulate them or ban certain cigars and whatnot. What other, if any, plans or anything that you guys are working on or anything that you guys are interested in doing that kind of helps further fight against some of those things that many other cigar makers and companies and even retailers face against the U.S. government within the cigar industry?
Well, this report that you saw is the first step. Next thing I'm going to do, we're going to finalize this report. This report you get is fresh, was just produced last month. We're gonna take a full page ad in Wall Street Journal, full page ad in the major magazines. We're gonna pay for it, and we're gonna put the fact. And I want FDA and government official to scientifically challenge us, right? We're gonna pick on them scientifically, not by arguing, but scientifically. Because at the end of the day, we live in America. Common sense will prevail, and facts are facts, right?
Sure.
And we're gonna put those We're going to educate the market about the fact. This is El Septimo's 2 years in the cigar business in the United States, but we have changed this industry so much that it hasn't changed in 200 years, literally in 200 years. So we're proud of that, and we're going to continue to do it because I want everybody to know El Septimo is not any other cigar maker. You know, everybody makes cigars these days. Today in the market, there are 3,200 different brand of cigars. I had my landscaper the other day chasing me, Mr. Younan, Mr. Younan. I said, what do you want, Ruben? He says, I want to try my own cigar. He made a cigar. My
Really?
dentist makes his own cigar. My neighbor makes his own cigar. One of my attorney makes his own cigar. Everybody makes cigar these days, right? And the funny thing is, they don't know anything about what they're making. It's made by someone else. They slap their ban on it, and they sell it to public, and public buys it, right? We're going to change that. We're going to change it in many ways. And right now, we have actually changed that. And that's the reason for a short period, El Septimo's been around. Everybody in the world are talking about it, right? Every magazine, every article. El Septimo is searched more on the internet. We can check it on SEO, search engine optimization, than most of the cigar makers in the world, right? Because there is content, there is valuable information that people will love to know about this, right? I sometimes sit next to a guy that he says, look, my biggest problem with my wife is she hates smoking. I sit down, I talk to his wife. 20 minutes later, his wife asked if she can light a cigar and smoke it with us. That's the major change we are making in the industry. And I tell you something, we are just starting. We are just starting to do it, and wait to see what's going to come in the months ahead of us.
You know, I like how you touched on, you know, the wife, and you know, we talked about this, you know, last week. We were, you know, with Carlito, we actually talked about this. You know, having more women is such a big thing, and it's one of the things in the cigar industry that really has changed, even really more recently, is there's such a larger influx of women who are smoking more cigars. More women are saying, like, you know what, I want to venture into cigar smoking. It's not, you know, just for my dad or my husband or, you know, whatever. This is something I can do too. You know, how else have you guys been able to make the female smoker feel more welcomed into the cigar industry through your products?
You know, it's another good question, and I will answer that in a second. But the other segment of the market that is growing very fast are the younger people between age of 22 to 28, right?
Yep.
That usually would have never touched a cigar, right? We own clubs around the world. It's funny, I go to our clubs are all over the world, in Brussels, in Geneva, in France, in Portugal. And I literally go in the club sometimes just to, you know, have a drink. And I see young kids in the club, instead of holding cigarettes, they're holding cigar and they're smoking a cigar, right? Now, let me tell you something about cigar that nobody has ever talked about. I don't know if they know it or not, but nobody has ever talked about it. Significant benefit of natural nicotine on your skin of your face, right?
Okay.
Next time when you want to light a cigar, feel your face, feel your skin. After that, light a cigar, go 30 minutes through it. Then feel your skin again. You suddenly realize your skin is oily because the heat of the smoke and the nicotine of the smoke opens your pores and let the natural oil from inside of your body comes out. So you're basically lubricating, creaming your own skin with the natural body ingredients from inside of your body.
Interesting.
So our skincare company discovered that, and we're going to be publicizing that. And then you're going to even see more people who are concerned about their skin quality, about appearance, that will adopting and smoking cigar. By the way, if your followers follow me on Instagram and El Septimo CEO, we talk about all of these. We educate the people about these. We publish reports about this, and they could read them and pass it to their friends and followers.
Yeah, so just a quick, you know, we'll stop here for a second. If you guys want to see more of that information, follow, you can follow Zaya at El Septimo CEO on Instagram. You can also follow their company account? Is it just El Septimo Cigars? El
That's
Septimo.
correct. El
El,
Septimo Cigars.
okay, so you can follow them there on social media and Instagram, and you can see more about what Zaya's talking about for yourself online. But yeah, kind of getting back to what we were saying before. So we were talking. I had asked you about women smokers and how you guys were. What's the word I'm looking for? Trying to
Sorry, I was smoking my cigar.
trying to showcase more to women and attract more women into smoking cigars. How has El Septimo kind of done that?
Well, I think, every human being today, you find stress level in the young kids that are 20, 22 years old, right? And sometimes, we try to distress ourselves by drinking spirit, wine, champagne, whiskey, scotch.
Sure.
But usually we don't like the effect of it, right? After that, we kind of don't like the effect of it. Or we also don't like to drink it because it's a high calories and, you know, makes you gain weight, right? So a lot of women and younger kids realize that they could actually relieve the stress and feel good by smoking cigar and without having any aftermath effect of it, right? So cigar is being used as a spiritual process where people can enjoy it, relax, have a conversation with the people they like to have conversation with, and it's becoming a more social thing. That's the reason United States today, there are 3,800 lounges. 10 years ago, we had only 1,800 lounges. In the next 5 years, we project to have 9,000 lounges in the United States. Because a lot of people that used to go with their wife, with their husband, with their girlfriends, boyfriends to a bar to drink, now they go to cigar lounge. They can have a drink if they want to, but they can also smoke a cigar. They could sit down, have a conversation, relax, and feel good about themselves, A cigar is a component that truly makes you feel good about yourself. I mean, I tell you, every time I'm sad or every time I feel like I'm bored or something, I light a cigar. I have plenty of energy and I have plenty of juice inside of me. Look at me, I'm 60 years old, and look how passionate I am. I devoted to smoking this beautiful cigar, seriously.
Ah, you look good for 60 too. Of course. So as we're getting towards the end of the show, we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you another thing before we wrapped up. How have you? What are you planning for the future? I know this year, we saw the release of the Emperor Collection. Is there anything that you guys are working on for next year, or are you guys kind of at a point where you have all the brands you want in the collection, and now it's just more of building on those brands?
Good point. No, we have already over 44 different cigar shapes, sizes, brand of cigars. We have Connecticut, we have Maduro, we have everything now, which we didn't have before.
Right.
So I think we're pretty much done making cigar because every kind of cigar that you can want, we already have it. What our focus is right now on accessories, you saw us introducing our $5.5 million lighter. Now, we don't expect people to pay for $5.5 million lighter, but we want the people to see our stretch of our innovation, imagination, creativity, right? So this coming year, we're going to be introducing 12 different lighters, very beautiful luxury lighters for people to have both soft flame and jet flame. We're going to introduce accessories from luggages, El Septimo luggages, El Septimo handbags, El Septimo cigar case, travel case carriers for people. So we're going to introduce close to 40, 50 different new products this coming year into a market, all part of El Septimo. And these accessories are not, we don't pay someone to make accessories, just slap our logo on it. We design them, we manufacture them. It's all our product. That's why they're so uniquely different than anybody else's product.
Even like the lighters and all that too. This is all stuff you'll make in house.
We make them all in house. They designed by our. We have two design companies. One in Paris, one in Geneva. They design them and we manufacture them in our own plant in Italy.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I think we saw last year you had some of the handbags at the booth, if I remember correctly.
We had a ladies' handbag. We had a man's duffel bag for travel, for sport.
Sure.
And beautiful design, beautiful leather. and we sold out of them in the show, which was amazing. They were there for display, not to be sold. But some people insisted they're not going to leave the show until we give them one, which we did. So those are some of the product. And El Septimo is a living style product. You know, this jacket is made by El Septimo. This ring is made by El Septimo. We're making watches in Geneva with El Septimo. So we're making a lot of new product. We want to be a Louis Vuitton of the cigar industry, and we're ahead of everybody else. Nobody's even close to us, and the distance between us and our competitors, we're just going to get bigger and longer because we are very active. We have big organization. We have 27,000 employees worldwide, right? If
Wow.
you add all the employees of every cigar maker in the world, they don't even reach half of our employees. So that should give you understanding of depth of our organization. We're about $5 billion company.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It almost sounds like not even just being a cigar company, but just a luxury lifestyle company that also makes cigars and many other things that go along with it.
Right.
No, that's very interesting. And you're right. I mean, it's kind of like in this day and age where everyone's making cigars, everyone's making good cigars, but it's like, how do you get ahead, right, of your competitor? We offer different kinds of products as well that are related or pair with it or go with it. You mentioned accessories and stuff like that too. So of course, I mean, you offer kind of all the things that a cigar smoker would want to have and need to complete that experience. And certainly you guys are ahead of that right now with everything it sounds like you guys are doing. So I look forward to seeing those products in the future, what you guys have come up with, the design and all that. So far, it's been very interesting. You guys have had some very detailed stuff. I mean, like I said, the show we saw the lighters. Those were very ornate. So it'll be interesting to see what else you guys have up your sleeves for sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Actually, yeah, very sorry, I can't talk today. It's been a long day of trying to get caught up from last week. You're very welcome. But before we wrap up the show, before we end, I just want to give you this opportunity. If there's anything else that we missed or anything else that you wanted to mention tonight, if you wanted to bring it up now, the show is yours.
Thank you so much. Actually, the cigar industry have never seen a growth that has seen over the last 5 years. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see even more significant growth that basically comes from more consumer understanding really a true benefit of nicotine and smoking a cigar. And they're smoking it. It's becoming a lifestyle, right?
Right.
Everywhere you go now, you see people lighting a cigar, which is great for us. The question is making a good cigar, making a cigar that are good for people, making a cigar that tastes good for people. That is our mission. We're excited about it. We're going to be active on it. And people are going to be hearing more about our new products that we're going to be announcing soon. And they'll all be excited. It's going to be a great community. And it's a great family community, brotherhood community. And having a product that can cement all that together is our mission in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we wish you nothing but the best, and with everything you guys are doing. Congrats on everything you guys have done so far, with everything that you guys, all your cigars that you guys have made, and the strides you guys have made in the industry, and even with this nicotine report that's very interesting, and of course there's going to be a lot of people going to want to read that too. So great job with that. Good luck in the future. Stay with us really quickly while we wrap up the show. Guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're listening later on the podcast apps, as always, visit smokintabacco.com for more news and updates from the cigar industry. Sign up for our email newsletter so you can get caught up on our shows, news in the industry, as well as giveaways and events, and as of course our charity efforts that we do for the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation, which will have updates for next year's charity fundraiser very soon. Working on putting that together right now, so make sure you're signed up for our email newsletter. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our YouTube channel, and everywhere you download your podcasts on all the podcast apps and platforms. And with that, that's going to be it for our show this week. Next week, we have the one, the only Mr. Matt Booth of Room 101 Brands and Room 101 Cigars. We'll talk about the STG buyout and takeover of Room 101, and we're going to do a Christmas cookie pairing that it was Nicole came up with Matt. I spoke to Matt today. He's very excited about it. That show may be Friday night. Matt has some scheduling stuff that may or may not change. So if we're not live next Thursday at our regular time and place, it'll be the same time Friday night, the 9th. I think it's the 9th.
Yes.
But I will. We're working to confirm that as soon as possible, and I'll let you guys know if that does change. So without further ado, I mean, without anything else, that's going to be our show this week. We'll be back on Saturday night for Spare Notes, and Nicole is going to be on Spare Notes this week. So don't forget to tune in. I know, it'll be awesome. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.